Hey kids, Lisa here. I want to do a really quick video. I was trying to get this up earlier this week, but was having technical difficulties, and I'm still having problems with my camera. So using my iPad, which means that I have to remember that the camera is there and not where I tend to look, which is into the picture. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. So this is a truly splendiferous, wondrous, recent acquisition. I only learned about this deck maybe a month or so ago, and I learned about it on the Eclectic Forum. Haven't heard a whole lot about it elsewhere. This is the Koningsfurt Urania, the AGM. There is called the Premium Tarot of A.E. Waite. And it is now, as of this month, as of May 2017, it's now available in a bunch of European languages, including English. But I got the German version of it, which was the first edition of it to come out, and I believe it came out last year. I bought it through a vendor on Amazon, and it was it was 18 euros new. I've unsealed it and all, but it was 18 euros including shipping, which is kind of extraordinary. This is the standard size. There's also a pocket size, which I think the packaging has, this is really similar looking, but there's an orange frame around the border of the front. Now what this is basically a remastered version of the Rider-Waite Smith deck based on the Pam A deck. This was the deck that basically pretty much the first deck that was produced. Came out in 1910. So there's an earlier printing, as I understand it, many fewer copies, much rarer to find it around, that came out in 1909 that has the blue roses and lilies background. So when you buy, for instance, Rider Company's original Rider-Waite with the blue and white backing that has the sepia tone, still in print, I'll put a link to that below. That's based on the earliest known printing version of the Rider-Waite Smith, but most folks think of the Pam A as really the first edition. So this is based on Pam A. I'll talk about the Little White Book in a second. And the reason I decided not to get it in the English version is because even in the English version, the titles are still in computer font rather than the calligraphy, Pixie's calligraphy. So I don't care. I just wanted, I got the German, that's the first version that came out last year, and oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This is a beautiful deck. It is, I think, now my very favorite Rider-Waite deck. Not clone, but my very favorite version of the Rider-Waite deck. I have a bunch of vintage copies. I have the blue box, the Rider Company sort of early 70s blue box, a very beautiful vintage version. I have a number of the early US Games versions that don't have copyright. Those are all lovely. The cardstock is lovely. The print quality is lovely. This, my friends, is lovelier. One of the things that makes it lovelier, the cardstock is really nice. It's not as matte as I sometimes like. It's a little bit slick. It's similar to the Centennial edition of the Rider-Waite in terms of its sort of slightly silky feel. It's got, look at the backing. So these are the backings that the original Pam A, Pam B, Pam C, Pam D versions of the deck, and I'll put some links below for the publishing history. Everything I know about this, I know from the internet, so I'll just point you to the sites that I've visited. I don't have deep knowledge about this stuff, and what I know is what's readily available. But anyway, this pebble back or crackle back is the distinctive backing of those early 1910, 1920s, 1930s decks. So the backs are lovely, this borderless back. The cardstock is lovely, but what's truly lovely, and you can't tell it as much in some of the cards, and I'm not sure how much it will show in this version. What's truly lovely is the print quality. The subtlety of the shading, of the colors, the clarity of the imagery. I mean, this is, apart from the fact that the titles are not the calligraphy titles, this is by far the best printing, the best edition of the Rider-Waite Smith deck out there. You can see a little bit of what I mean with the subtlety of the coloring. If you look at Force, right? See the lion, see the mottled color of his hide. The sharpness of the decks. And if you look at the clouds, you might be able to see, you know, it's not just solid gray, it's, you see shading. Now I have to confess, I have not, I mean, this deck is in order because I really wanted to do a flip through with you guys. So I haven't worked with it. I've just flipped through it. But, you know, I'm finding it breathtaking. You know, look at the difference in coloring in the head of the devil and his body. Now, some of this detail may be available and present in more, you know, in the US Games edition of this deck, but it's not really visible. You have to kind of look to see some of the subtleties of the detail. Here, you start to see, you know, I mean, you start to see the kind of complexity of Pixie's artwork. And it just, you know, there's a way that we're so used to seeing this deck, you know, as a reproduction of a reproduction of a reproduction. And we sort of take for granted that the imagery, you know, that there's not that much subtlety to it. And then you see this and you realize, no, actually, you know, look at the shading on the hand. You know, and even a card like this, I mean, just the difference, the subtleties of the shading in the sky. Or is that might be, no, it's there. Whoops. Oh, I'm trying to hold up the deck and, okay. So, you know, I think some cards, there's more that we capture in the detail than in others. You know, I think the Four of Swords, I don't see a whole lot. And then some cards have a little bit, like the water here, the sort of shading. The details pop more. I think where I see this, the differences the most, you know, I think this, I mean, I love the Ten of Swords. I love the contrast of this card in every deck, but particularly the way that the details, seeing the swords penetrating his body. I mean, things are just more visible. But then in the court cards, I think there I start to really see it. You sort of see a kind of watercolor sense with the clouds, so that the Page of Swords comes more to life. You know, these kind of, given how much background fills some of these images, to have that further shading there. And just the way things like the fingernails sort of pop here in ways that I've never noticed them before in other decks. Or how, you know, how obvious the ship on the Two of Pentacles at the figure's right knee, just, you know, how much you see it now. The detail in the sails making it come to life. The yellow of those pentacles in the Four. This card, I mean, the color of the yellow, the way that you see that anchor / tree in the church window. The more legibility of the expressions in the people receiving alms. So, the threadbare nature of the vest that the apprentice is wearing, you know, you start to see like, oh, he's learning, you know, he's learning his craft. He's kind of a little threadbare. He's still studying. The hood on the bird, covering its eyes on the falcon. Again, I mean, these details are there in all of the decks, but, you know, and this card, which is such a busy card. Anyway, so, you know, just these, the clarity of detail, the way that the, you know, the landscape in this, these very busy cards in the Pentacles, the way that stuff is more legible. It's still really busy and lush, but the contrast between the built environment of the castle and then the foliage on the left of the king, and then the repetition of the vines, the grape leaves on his cloak. You know, all the stuff becomes far more visible. Really seeing the world in the globe that the Two of Wands holds. The details popping. I'm repeating myself. So, I don't know. It just, whoops. It is a very inexpensive deck. It's beautifully produced. If you only purchase one Rider-Waite Smith, I think this is the one to purchase. Even though the titles are not in Pixie's calligraphy, it's still worth it. And hey, who wants to purchase just one Rider-Waite Smith deck? How can you say no to the King of Wands with all his little chameleons? Or here, I mean, look at the droplets. Like, have you ever noticed them like that before? I don't know. This is a deck that makes me want to look at all of my Rider-Waite Smith decks and to see why it is that it's been so hard for me to notice these details. You know, I feel like it's like if you're hard of hearing or if you have bad eyesight and then you suddenly get your vision corrected or you get a hearing aid and you're like, oh, that's what you've been saying all along. Oh my God, I love this card. I love, again, this is one of those, I mean, I you know, 10 of Swords, 8 of Cups, these kind of a little bit sad cards that I love, but they're beautifully drawn in this deck. And here the vividness of the colors in the family's outfits balance out the rainbow, and the rainbow is a little bit less annoying. I never liked the rainbow. Oh, yeah, everything in this deck. I love it. Okay. And then finally, the King of Cups. Okay, there you go, folks. Yeah, I'll put some links below, and hope you're all doing well. Again, I forgot to say anything about the little white book. Okay, here's the thing. Now, this is in German, and I can read German haltingly and with some difficulty. I used to be able to read it better. But what is cool about this, and so, you know, buying this in English might be worth doing, is that the little white booklet has commentary by none other, where does it say it in the cover? By none other than, there we go, Rachel Pollack. So, this is Rachel Pollack's discussion of the cards. How cool is that? Okay, that was all I wanted to add.